Welcome to the Robert Hunt Financial Market Update. It's your host, Robert Hunt. I look at the week's financial news that can be a bit confusing, misleading, and take you off course, help to make it actionable, understandable, and clear. What a week. Woo. Therefore, what a show. We've got a good one for you. We're going to be looking at the ways artificial intelligence is impacting your ability to be an investor. That's at the top of the show. We then will do a little bit of headline investigations where we look at how stocks have taken a bit of a dip with the conflict in Iran. We're going to look at South Korea in particular. We then go to our friend Jason Zwig, one of our favorites. His column, The Intelligent Investor, talks about the way to make investing complicated in the area of indexing. And then we end with, I think, a fascinating look at what it means to be really top-heavy and the S&P 500 sent to us by a friend of the show. At the top, artificial intelligence use this week. This was a banner week for me. My mind was blown. So, as you may be well aware, for those of you who follow the shows every week faithfully, thank you, Robert Hunt Financial Market Update Nation, you'll know that the AI has been doing more and more in the area of financial planning than it ever has in the past. Well, just this week, something new happened. So in my practice, what I do is I have a Google Sheet. It's like Excel, except the Google Sheet I find easier to share information. So it's a file that's shared between me and the client. So if I have a new client, which I did this week, lovely people, great. We share the file, all good. I then see a little Gemini. So I pay for this AI workspace suite with Google Gemini Workplace. I pay for the premium deal. All good. I noticed a little bubble on the Excel sheet, the Google sheet, saying it could do things to help me. So I said, great. Here's all this data. I just started asking it questions. Work I was going to do. I said, hey, when can these folks retire? What should they be thinking about? And let me tell you, it's pretty good. Not perfect, but oftentimes it's because of the way I inputted the data, it didn't understand correctly, but pretty good. So now built in to this Google Sheet, which all it has is, it's a balance sheet. It's got their assets. It's got commentary on the type of assets they have. I put in some Social Security information, another part of it, put in some pension data. The AI incorporates all that. I fact check it. Looks good. And it does it instantaneously. I can just ask it questions. The data's in there. I think this is fascinating for anybody. Let's say you don't have a financial advisor. Well, you do now. And it may not be just perfect, because where it'll struggle is knowing which questions, you will struggle knowing which questions to ask, and where the AI will have a potential blind spot if you don't provide the right data. So there were a couple instances where I had to push back on the AI and say, I know the way the client's thinking about it. That's not the way I'm thinking about it. Reframe the data this way. And it made it more understandable to the client. So that's my value add. I'm an intermediary. You see, I'm with the agent and the client, but I can go really fast now, really quick. I can create lots of charts and cash flow planning. And wow, this is just this week. Now, I'm sure this was available previously, but now it integrates so easily. So anyway, if you want to give it a shot, get on a Google Sheet, pay for Google's premium deal, or you could try another large language model. It just really works nicely inside the Google Sheet, and just start talking to it. Hey, what should I be thinking about? It'll tell you things. So fascinating. I still think you need a human if you really want to get the best answer, but I wonder how long that's going to be. My son came up to me yesterday and he said, Dad, you should be a pastor. I said, why? He said, because the AI is going to do all the financial advising. Okay. This is my 7-year-old. So maybe he's listening to the podcast. Maybe he's hearing what the AI can do. I think I've got some years left in me, because I really believe that the psychological piece, the organization piece, and then the encouragement, kind of shepherding people through a process, AI is just going to make me really fast and accurate, I think, for the foreseeable future. But we'll see. I don't know. It's moving fast. And then the stock market. Doubtless you've heard it said that there's conflict in the Middle East. And markets like predictability, and they're not getting it because bombs are dropping. And so there was a CNBC headline, South Korea stocks crashed 18% in 2 days. Could it happen here? Now, I just want, maybe you've never been to South Korea. It may seem like a small little part of the Korean peninsula. I'm telling you, it's huge, modern, nice, well put together. Tons of major companies are there, and it's down 18% in 2 days. Now, just put yourself in someone's shoes who have 100% exposure to Korean equities. Perhaps they live in Busan or Seoul. Annyeonghaseyo to my listeners over there. How are they feeling? 18% in 2 days. Perhaps you could ask yourself that question. How would you feel? This isn't 18% in 2 years. This is your down 18% in 2 days. Now, we've taken a bit of a hit in these American markets. Certainly nothing like that. In the past week, you're really not down hardly at all. American markets, you're down about 1% the past week. South Korea down 18% in 2 days. How would you feel? As I referenced in previous podcasts, as equities keep making record highs, people find more and more reasons not to hold any cash. They find more and more reasons not to have any bonds, and they kind of talk themselves into more and more risk exposure. I think when crises like these hit and markets seem to be flummoxed, international markets in particular. So the past week, international markets are down almost 7%. 1 week. 1 week down 7%, international markets, who are our leaders for the year. But they're particularly hit a little harder. How you feeling? It's moments like these where I think back to Mr. Morgan Housel. He wrote The Psychology of Money, and in my view is one of the thought leaders in how to think about investing at the psychological level. It surprises me when I read this. He keeps 20% of his net worth in cash. What? 20%? What is he, crazy? What does he think, the world's going to end every other day? It's moments like these where the wisdom of his setup comes to the fore. Because what he says he likes to do, he wants to create a portfolio, an asset allocation model that he thinks can last 80 years, 100 years. That means he's planning on a 1929. He's planning on a 1987. He's planning on an 1896. He's planning on 1869. He's planning on 1941 and a 2009. So it may be that this is transitory as a bunch of these moments happen in markets, but take the time to engage in the self-reflection to see, am I in a good spot? Am I as tough as I think I am? Is my risk profile what I think it is? As some of you may know, I don't let people fill out risk questionnaires. I think we overestimate our risk. What I'm more interested in is, how did you handle it the last time it was hard? Because the best predictor of future activity is past activity. So I want to learn your story. I want to find out through narrative what you think about how you're wired, not what you want to be wired, but how you're actually wired. So down 18%. Are you a long-term investor? And for all the folks say, oh, that investing thing is so easy. You get to put your money in indexes and do nothing. Tell that to the South Korean index investor. They lost 18% in 2 days. And oh, by the way, no rule says they can't lose 18% the next 2 days. No rule says they can't lose 50% in a month. There are no rules. Can't. So this is where we will avoid leverage, keep cash at the ready, and are globally diversified. Globally diversified. We then look at Mr. Jason Zweig, as you know, one of our favorites. Headline: your investing strategy is great so long as you don't actually trade anything. Subheadline: a look at a popular ETF shows why real world returns don't always live up to expectations. Zweig just he never misses. He almost never misses. what this article explains is that in a laboratory, there are all sorts of indices that might beat the S&P 500 or might beat another plain vanilla index, an international index or a global index or a VTI, total U.S. market. In the real world, a lot of those indices fail to beat the plain vanilla. And they talk about one index fund in particular, these equal weighting indices. Perhaps you've heard of these. A lot of folks are getting a little nervy about how top heavy the S&P 500 is because NVIDIA, Apple, and Alphabet each are more than 5% apiece of the index. And they're starting to get a little shivers down their spine. Maybe I need to go with one of these equal weight, not equal weighting indices. So in a traditional S&P 500 index, market cap, so the size of the company's valuation, is what dictates the size of the company in the index. That's why NVIDIA is so big or Apple's so big. Well, in equal weighting, you get about 0.2% for each one. So NVIDIA, even though it makes up about 8% of the regular S&P 500, only about 0.2% of equal weighting index. And when technology stocks are about 33% of the S&P 500, they're just 13% of the equal weight version. As a reminder, they're just putting the same amount of money in every stock in the S&P 500, not weighting them according to their size. So what happens? Well, smaller stocks have a bigger impact than they do in the regular index. The valuation's a little different. But wouldn't you know it? From April of 2003 through this week, this is a fresh article, so this week, the S&P 500 equal weight index returned an annualized 11.65% average return, edging past the 11.34% annualized gain of the S&P 500 itself. So in theory, that index outperformed. Zwig rightly asked us, but what about in practice? And I thought what he was going to go with was investor behavior, because what I usually tell people, the reason why not to do these bespoke, complex products is you're not going to stick with them. And you're going to buy high and sell low. Your timing's going to be poor. Well, this is even different. It's more different than that. Well, what happens? Well, Vanguard's really good. This Vanguard S&P 500, they're really good at tracking the index. So it's one thing, none of us invest in the index directly. We use a product provider like a Vanguard, or this group is Invesco that has their S&P 500 equal weight index. Wouldn't you know it? The Vanguard 500 index beat the Invesco equal weight index. The Invesco S&P 500 equal weight index didn't actually perfectly match the index return. It lagged it by 0.45%. And Vanguard, our beloved Vanguard, they cross-sell you like crazy now, which is really frustrating, but they're still the best. Vanguard did a great job. They basically hit it. So even though in theory that equal weight index beat the conventional index, in practice, because of the higher fees, and believe it or else, I'm not sure this includes some of the tax inefficiency, but there's a bunch of buying and selling that goes on with these equal weight indices. Bunch of it. Because you got to keep all of them the same weighting at 0.2%. So if NVIDIA goes up a ton, you've always got to be selling and buying other ones because they've all got to match up. And some of these stocks are more expensive to buy because of the S&P 500. It's easy to buy billions of dollars of NVIDIA. Such a big stock, so much float, or so many shares available to trade throughout the day. Again, it all goes back to this: how complex a car do you want to buy? I know there are probably many BMW fans listening to this, but the long-term reliability of those vehicles usually not as good. Why is that? Well, the YouTube car videos that I watch tell me this: they're built for performance, not reliability. The buyer of that BMW doesn't mind the complexity. Maybe they're on a 3-year lease. They're not looking at the next 20 years. Here's the analogy. It's that Toyota Corolla. That's what you want. A lot of parts, very reliable, low cost. That's the plain vanilla index. That plain vanilla index and that Toyota Corolla, very similar. Over the long haul, they're going to do better, financially speaking. So I extrapolate this sort of article to a whole host of financial products, a whole host of them. I have seen multitudinal slide decks on the front end that purport to be able to achieve very high returns, usually in the private investing space. Part of what I do is help people screen deals. So we look at a business idea or an investment product or a partnership, and they do this with integrity. They say, hey, this is what we think we will do. It's almost always the case that they don't do it. Some of that's just the way the world works, the way the ball bounces. But in most instances, I think for the folks that are really doing it with integrity, that there's the laboratory results and the real world results, or the Excel spreadsheet results and what happens in practice. You've always got to discount a little bit. And everybody kind of knows that. That's just seems to be the law of the jungle in investing, is that the more complex someone's strategy is, the more difficult it seems to be for them to replicate certain results. You just got to assign a big discount to it. And this was fascinating. A friend of the show sent me this video from 1993 to present. What if you did this? You've probably heard it said, oh, it's so top heavy. The index is so top heavy. What if you went to the extreme? You only bought the top holding the S&P 500 as the only stock you owned from 1993 to present. And you had to rotate. So when ExxonMobil went out of favor and General Electric was bigger, when Exxon came back in, or when NVIDIA became bigger, you had to keep, or when Microsoft was the top, you always had to buy the top stock in the fund. That was all you held, though. That was all you held. No diversification, just this one fund, just this one stock. Well, from 1993 to present, the S&P 500 is up about 2,227%. That's pretty good. 1993 to present, up 2,220. Whoa. Guess what happens if you only buy the largest company in the index? You're up 14,466%. But I thought we were supposed to be scared of being top heavy. All the articles I'm reading show how dangerous it is and how we need to be in this equal weighting index. Well, the answer to this is not go out and follow this strategy of buying the top weighted holding the S&P 500, but you better believe it, for the next 20 years it could lag. We have no idea. We have no idea. I think what I drew from this is nobody knows anything. Nobody. If someone were coming to you with a slide deck in 1993 and said, hey, only buy one company in the index, it'll be the biggest company, that's all you got to do, everyone would chuckle. And yet you're up 14,466%. Again, don't do this. Don't do this. But it was just a reminder to me, don't worry about being top heavy, and nobody knows anything. Nobody knows anything. So let's control what we can, listener. And you know what that is. We're going to keep our costs low, our investing simple, and our time horizon long, because that is what's going to give us the best shot on our investing journey. Until next week.